the life. The young guy, high key. Yeah, Greystone. Tell my friends stand by me, only if I'm right. I come out in triple darkness just to see the light. If I say it once, I guarantee I say it twice. If they want me, I ain't going out without a fight. In my dreams, I'm a killer, but for God, man. Try to play.
Welcome to the B2M Podcast Crew, where we're talking about our brothers to men relationship for over 40 years, combined 100 years of marriage, 13 children combined with 12 boys, discussing our pathway into fatherhood, brotherhood, and providing some tips not on how to do it, but on how we do it. I'm the Wavo Black, and I'm joined to my right by JG Yates, who's going to talk about what we're getting into today.
Good morning, good morning. What's up, folks? What's up, fellas? I'm JG, my man Talik, Warkey, James. Last time Warkey mentioned, and Corey just mentioned as well, we've been friends for 40 years plus, right? And so we're going to start out today as far as talking about friendship and how you choose your friends, what friendship means to all of us. So, James, what does friendship mean to you, brother?
Well, it's funny because when we look back as far as how long our friendships have been, that's nothing that came to mind. You know what I mean? As far as like you really thinking that deep as to how you select or choose your friends. But of course, you know, I guess what would seem most common is things like loyalty, trust, and just a organic camaraderie that you have. So. It had me thinking. I was like, what was it? You know, other than just toys or something like that. You know, things that we had in common. And when you're that young, you know, going as far back as me and the Wavo, you know, kindergarten, first grade. You know what I mean? Just similar interests, and we're being in the same neighborhood at the time. And then I go back to, of course, for you and I, it's family. Talik. And Waukee, it was the musical piece as far as like, you know, entertaining and that sort of thing that kind of at least, began our friendship and whatnot. But then in that, you know, we had, I guess just that mutual love of entertaining and at that time the group New Edition. And so from that, you know, we just started to bond and grow closer to one another as friends. Again, at school, and those are those. What was that? High school, right?
Yeah, ninth grade.
Yeah, as freshmen and whatnot. And so, you know, who would have known that it'd be a lifelong friendship like that? Especially with you and I. As far as long as we went, as far as just maintaining that. And I guess throughout the years, again, the loyalty, the trust. The camaraderie, and just having similar experiences,
Excellent. So Waukee, James mentioned friendships. He talked about different levels from elementary to middle to high school, et cetera, for adults. What do you think? Is there a reason, a season, or forever? How does that relate, as far as that's concerned? Or once you're a friend, always a friend, or there's seasons? So what makes this different?
I think one of the things that I always like to discuss with my sons is how important it is to understand how you really have to be careful who you call a friend. You know what I mean? You really need to be mindful, so many times, the kid, my boy this, my boy that. Like, man, you just met this dude, 2 weeks ago. How he your boy? You know what I mean? And so, I think we've all maybe had an experience where someone else has called one of us their best friend. And we like, yeah, I might be his best friend, but you know what I mean? Like,
He's not mine.
Yeah, right, exactly. You know what I mean? Some of us been best men in weddings.
Y'all some mean friends, man.
Some of us been best men in weddings. We don't talk about that.
It almost make you uncomfortable when they say it. You know what I'm saying? You like, man.
Yeah, but the
you
point
flattered.
is,
You feel good about it, but
I don't feel good about it.
you know.
but it's a
I'm like,
reminder.
Dang,
It's
I
a
don't want to disappoint this dude, but I don't feel that way.
Right,
I mean,
right.
But the other, I know
No,
you
go
in
ahead,
the
go
middle,
ahead.
but at the same time, I had to get to learn this, through years, right? And what happens is, you have the qualities that people look for in a friend, so naturally they're attracted to you. So when I find out I got all these other friends out here, now I understand because I'm not wronging no one. I'm not mistreating them. I'm holding value, even though they don't seem the same way. Even though I don't seem the same to them, but I'm still holding like real characteristics of being a real friend, and so that's attractive to the outside.
Yeah,
And I think, it's really about timing. You know what I mean? When I think about who my best friend was in kindergarten, you know what I mean? It might have been,
Right.
Brian Walker
Oh,
or
yeah.
Jay Turner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my best friend in fifth grade, sixth grade might be Irvin Johnson. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it kind of changed over time. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And so, like, that's one of the things my mom always said to us is you make sure you pick your friends, don't let your friends pick you. You know what I mean?
right,
And
right.
oftentimes, man, that's when, we find ourselves in some situations because we hanging with some people that, may not have our best interests at heart. So,
But I want to dig into when you said make sure you know who your friends are, and that's why I chimed in on that part about being uncomfortable. I'm gonna tell you what I mean by that.
Okay.
Because the first thing we need to talk about is if you're gonna know who your friends are, you got to know what a friend is.
Okay.
absolutely.
And so if we're gonna teach our children or how I taught my children, and in some ways I still question myself as a man, a grown man, on what it means, because I just think I mentioned this in our introductory episode. My definition of friend might be different than some other people, right? Because in this era, and I'm gonna tell you the danger of this era, you got Facebook friends.
Right,
You
right.
got Instagram friends, followers, and friends. I mean,
Thousands.
you got people on Facebook, and for anybody, what do they say on shows when any any resemblance of somebody is not intentional, whatever. You got people on Facebook like good night Facebook friends and family. Like, I'm almost like whoa, like okay, I get it, but so my point is we casually use that word in some ways now that there is no substance to it. And so when people call somebody a friend, or I told my son, I was like, what does that mean to you? What do you mean he's your friend? You mean y'all can laugh and joke together and y'all cool? Do y'all spend extra time together? Have y'all gone through something together? Those are the things, like in addition to what James said, a lot of it's time. Because we've all spent a lot of time together,
Yeah.
right? And not all of it is good time.
For sure.
Because a friend is there when it's not some good times.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So when someone comes to me and says, hey, you're my best friend, and I haven't gone through any of those things with them, it makes me uncomfortable because I'm not used to that level of someone seeing as such an intimate title without some substance behind it, so.
Yeah.
So let me. I'm gonna ask Waukee to.
You can say wow.
All right, Wa. What's the definition of a friend to you? And then that way we'll set the stage. Because we've been talking about it, but then that way we'll have a certain level, and then we can dive.
Because ultimately, this is what we want to do is teach our young men how to choose friends because
Right.
they find themselves in delicate situations because they don't wisely choose their friends. They do let their friends choose them. But for me, it's about somebody you've been blood, sweat, and tears with.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Over time, we have bonds that we don't even have to speak about because we know. You know what I mean? I think that's probably going to be one of our biggest challenges doing this is because we're going to be laughing about something and ain't nobody going to know what we talking about but us.
Right,
Right.
You know what I mean?
right.
It ain't gonna be funny to nobody but us.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And so, when you have a history, you know what I mean? That's just super important. We cried together, we laughed together. You know what I mean? We done got in trouble together.
Right.
We done done all these things together. That's what bonds you.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
And when you've been
Yeah.
through that, You know because the friendship has been tested.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
The friendship has been tested by some of the things you've gone through. And so that's when you're like, okay, that's a real friend right there.
So I'm looking at a definition of friendship as a state of enduring affection, esteem, intimacy, and trust between two people, right? In all cultures, friendships are important relationships throughout a person's lifespan. So you touch based on the different levels, from elementary to high school to college, even right now when we meet new people, right? And something I heard, what you mentioned earlier, Chill, was like, what I heard is like being friendly versus being my friend. So we always gonna be friendly and welcoming and accommodating, right? And that's just who we are as a man, right? That's just being polite, being nice, but then, and you're not being fake with it, right? And then so many people sometimes not used to that, and they be like, man, he's a great friend. He's a great guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Man, I don't know you. You know what I mean?
But that's what's attractive. But that's what's attractive.
Right.
And you never know. That friendship
can
may be
develop.
in a place where it does become one of your great
develops.
friends.
The key word in the definition you read was that we haven't talked about was trust.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's what you don't have when I just met you and we having a good time together and it seems like you're a good guy and I seem like we compatible, but we haven't gained the trust. Takes time.
Absolutely.
And we can bond over real stuff or foolishness. You know what I'm saying?
A lot of foolishness.
Yeah, a lot of foolishness, right?
Yeah.
But some
Sign
people,
me up.
all we did was foolishness, and that's it. You know,
Yes,
it don't
sir.
go beyond that. We can't challenge one another. You know.
I told on the stories. I told my sons. I said, listen. The most important. One of the key things I emphasize. The most important thing you can do is choose who you hang around in your life. And we all talk business together, so we all know that, hey, if you the smartest person in the room, you in the wrong room. We know all the cliches, right?
Sure.
That we've learned over time, and all of them are true.
Yeah.
Right? You shouldn't just be around a bunch of people that you're more advanced than, smarter than. You need to be challenged, right? But that relationship, and I didn't really put a lot of substance behind, like, defining. I just said people that are trying to be successful, that's who you hang around. People that's trying to get good grades, that's who you need to hang around. I'm telling you. But then I was able to say, look at me and my friends.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm able to give them some examples because I was walking it.
Yeah.
Right.
So I wasn't saying that and then bringing the worst of the people we grew up with around them.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it takes us defining it and then trying to walk that walk because they do more, as you know, of what we model. So, but that's the critical relationship, man, because it is their success or their lack of success, at the end of the day.
Hey, that's so real because thinking back through certain friends, and again, boys gonna be boys. We're gonna do silly stuff. We get into certain stuff. And then by the grace of God, we get out of it. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, right? And then after we get out of it, okay, are we gonna dive deeper into that? Or be like, nah, we need to chill. You know what I mean? It's some sort of self-correction there. In times in my past, I'm like, yo, I got love for you, but I can't go there with you no more. You know what I mean? I got to go here. And once you do that 5 or 6, 10 times in your life, you know what I mean? That's where.
Nah, you ain't down for me then.
Right,
you can't go there with me. What's up with that? You thought we was boys.
Hey, nah, I don't do that no more.
That's some sucker stuff, man.
Hey, well, I'm your sucker today because I'm not going to be locked the fuck up. I mean, you know what I mean?
Man, you acting like you
He ain't
the
been
ops and
100.
all that. That's what our young, this is what our young people dealing with.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
tough. It's tough,
And
man.
then it turns into the other question, letting our boys know what's the difference between a friend versus an acquaintance.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And understanding who you should trust or what information, how open you should be, how vulnerable you should be.
Sure.
And I think that's the real definition of, you know what I mean, who you're vulnerable to, who you sincerely open up to, you know?
Yeah.
And even if that other person that say, hey, we're your best friend, even if they become vulnerable, I'm not going to hustle them and take advantage of them. You feel me?
That's why you their new best friend.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Because they figured that out.
One of the biggest compliments I ever received as being a friend was kind of strange, right? My neighbor, he was going to tell someone about how I was such a great friend to him, and he put me on such a high pedestal. Once again,
Like, I ain't that good of a man.
brother Nuevo Black Man, it made me feel real uncomfortable. So I can kind of tap into it now. You know, you said that, but he said it's only two people I can count on, and that's Jesus and Talik. I said, whoa. You're not gonna do me like that.
Jesus level friendship.
Yeah,
One ain't gonna never let you down.
Yeah.
Only-
You understand?
hey, you can only go
And,
down.
Hey,
you
you
know?
know, it is the Bible say, greater love have no man than he lay down his life for his friend.
Funny.
You know, and it's so funny, but I mean, he was extremely serious, you know, and I mean, you know when he needs something, boom, I'm there, or you know, trying to, you know, make a few phone calls, see if I can help him out, or etc. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, that was one of those moments, you know. However, on the flip side, I found myself going down some dark roads, man, having a heavy commitment with friends, you know what I mean, and getting in trouble, you know, and those the type of things that you know, you gotta be able to establish boundaries. You know, you gotta be able to draw. Let's bring this conversation back down instead of escalating it as far as going to get into, you know, in trouble. Mm-hmm. You know, but if nobody bringing that conversation back to home base and everybody is there to escalate it, then you find yourself in some dark places. You know, so you gotta definitely have some boundaries. You know.
Jay Moore was about to say something.
Oh no, it was first when you had touched on the whole, like you said, knowing the difference in acquaintance versus friend, and what JG had mentioned earlier as well. It made me think, as in looking back on my oldest son Michael and Caden, the youngest. It was around the middle school, you know what I mean, that I kind of had to try to let them know, hey, you know, not everyone is your friend, you know, that, you know, you have to test them with regards to if you can confide in them with certain things and information or whatever the case. And I say, and don't be surprised if you're betrayed. So be prepared for that. Be prepared for betrayal sometimes, even in a friendship that where, you know, it could turn around, but then at the same time, depending on the level of betrayal, you know, you have to cut it off and be like, okay, you're not really my friend, you know. Michael, at the time, again, it was around middle school, and again, it's usually your neighbors, you know what I mean, or whomever that you're going to be, you know, friends with, most likely and first. And so it was a young fella in the neighborhood with that was right around the corner from our subdivision. And, you know, I can kind of see that, you know, his influence wasn't, you know, the best for my son. But I just like, you know, I try to remind him to stay true to the values and principles that I was trying to instill in him, and try to, you know, reflect that and be the example that, you know, to his friend, to try to help him, you know what I mean, to be on more positive and not to go, you know, to go in the path of, you know, contrary to the values that I'm trying to raise you in, you know. And so that's the, you know, some of the challenges that our young men have to face, because, you know, they will be tried as to what values you instill in them, and going contrary to that. And so I kind of tried to forewarn both my boys about that. And then K-Moo in middle school, I think when I had to bring it to his attention was when he had a friend, and I forgot if it was K-Moo's girl first or his, you know, I think it was the other guy's girl, and I think K-Moo kind of like swooped in, you know, after the breakup. He was respectful of that, you know what I'm saying, like he was trying to.
But he was next.
Yes.
Okay.
And so he kind of felt bad and was like, you know, so I was like, you know, hey, you know, that's just how things are sometimes. But, you know, he learned from that, I believe, that, you know, as far as, you know, defining those, you know, true friends versus acquaintances, if you will.
Man, one of the things that I always thought was crazy, how when we were young and we bring somebody home, friend home or whatever, the first thing my mom be like, who they people? Who they people? Who what's their last name?
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
I guess maybe that's a byproduct of small town.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Small town Charlottesville. You know what I mean? But like, who they people? You know what I mean? And it used to annoy the heck out of me and my brother.
Oh,
You know
my
what I mean?
goodness.
We was so fed up with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We like, what the parents got to do with the kid? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now that I'm an adult,
Yeah. and have children.
It's
Yeah,
hereditary. They crazy. It's genetic. They crazy. I'm telling you.
man, that's the first thing I'm on. Like,
Yeah.
what's their last name? Who they mama? Who they daddy? Let me see if I know who they are. You know what I mean?
Right.
What they and it's
How
not.
they living.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And oftentimes, you know, it's amazing too how oftentimes, man, you know, as they say, the apple on the tree, you know what I mean? You see it, you know what I mean? There was a particular time when my son was, when Darius was in 7th grade, he was about 12 years old. And he had pretty much done a really good job of choosing his friends. You know what I mean? I was always cool with it, you know what I mean? One of the real benefits that I would recommend to any parent is to actually, if you had the opportunity, to coach your kids in basketball, football, whatever it is they do. Because when you coach, you get to build relationships with those kids that they become friends with.
Right.
And now, you know what I mean, you start to see what's going on. And not only that, you can all of a sudden begin to influence their friends yourself as their coach. And so that's a big recommendation that I always make. If you're able to coach your friends, because what happens is those friends will start to look at you in high regard.
Coaching your son's friend.
Yeah, coaching your son's friends. When that happens, that really gives you credibility with your own son. It helps to build your credibility with your own kids when that happens. But there was one particular time where my son had always done a really good job of choosing his friends. And he, you know, police had brought him home, you know what I mean? And because he had gotten into it in the neighborhood with a neighbor, you know, with one of his friends. And I told him, I said, hey, man, you know, you can't hang with that guy right there. That's the one guy I'm saying you can't hang with. You know what I mean? Everybody else was cool. And I was like, and I pretty much let you do it yourself. But this guy when you 17 can get you killed. This guy when you 15, 16 can get you killed.
I was about to
You
say,
know
yeah,
what I mean?
I was about to say, how old was he?
Yeah, it was 12 at the time.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, you know, this guy can be bad news. And I love that kid. I absolutely love that kid. But there were times when that kid just would not listen. You know what I mean? And when you have one that challenges to that level of a degree at that young age, you know it's gonna continue. You know what you know what I mean? And I'm like, you can't hang with that guy right there. You know, and I love that kid to death, but I'm like, you can't hang with him.
I was thinking about, and having been, you know, in the school system, you know, for my career, I just thinking about, you know, they make all teachers take a class called Human Growth and Development, which they talk about what the behavioral expectations are by age. So,
Wow.
you know what I'm saying? Like what you can expect. I used to use it when I was coaching to give to the other coaches.
Oh.
Right?
Wow.
Because you coaching 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, you asking them, do the book, whatever 6 things you telling them to do, and then the thing says they can understand 3-step processes.
Right.
You just said 5 in a row.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So know what you can expect based on where they are.
Wow.
But one of the keys, I was just checking it back on it to see what they say, see if I caught anything about friendship. As soon as it moves into the adolescent phase, right, which is basically teenage,
Right.
12, friends will become, first thing they say is friends will be more important than family to them.
Yeah,
Right?
that's heavy.
So, and that's what I was going to say when James said, where Jay Moo was like, yeah, I told him when he got in about the 6th grade, you know, they may betray you. And it sounds like you're going off on a warrior journey or something, right? Like, you might go, there may be evil lurking about, you know, and you must stand firm, you know, but it sounds scary to 11-year-old because all of them, they've been playing PlayStation without arguing with anybody about much.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you telling them the world is evil, right? So that pointed out to me is, if friends are more important than family, it means our influence at that point is less.
Absolutely.
Right.
We have less of an influence, right? But what inputs do we have to have at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 that makes it so that when they get to that point, they're equipped, even though our influence is left. And to me, it's about telling them the truth about stuff.
Right.
Sure.
Right? I'm telling you the truth. You know what? That guy right there his behavior is terrible.
Yeah.
If you 5, I'm telling you, don't you ever act like that 5-year-old right there.
Sure.
You know, so when you're pointing it out, it's just like they say when you're trying to teach them numbers, show them numbers in the neighborhood when they're walking around. Oh, look, that's a 1 on the mailbox. Oh, it's a 2 on the grocery store. See the 2?
Right.
So I'm pointing out to you, look, see how that little boy's acting right there? We're
Yes,
not
sir.
doing that
Yes, sir.
because it's going to be a different result for you. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's the key is, like, you got to build some type of relationship with them when you're showing them things and telling them the truth about other people so that they're not surprised at 11 that evil is out there. Like, they've seen behavior. And I'm going to point out one other thing. I was in the store, and we're going to talk about discipline, I know, in another episode, right? But this lady, it was a Caucasian lady, was with her child. The child was crazy. What? You know how kids get in those grocery carts,
just
man?
went bad.
It was
He was
ridiculous. He was
crazy.
crazy. That child was, forgive me. Yeah, he
off
was
the chain.
out of pocket.
He was out the chain.
Totally out of pocket. And it was 2 of them, right? And I was like, I was in Trader Joe's, shout out, I was in Trader Joe's, she said, excuse me. And in my mind, the first thing came to me was what my mama would have did to me,
Oh man.
right? Well, I would have got straight up snatched right there, right? She said, excuse me, can I ask you all to control your bodies right now?
That's what she said to her children.
The question is, did it work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I said, you know what? You could have either got snatched and been controlling your body, sniffling, right? Or she just did what she needed them to do. And that's what the problem was. You're not controlling your body right now. The issue is you're not controlling your body. And I'm saying all of that to say our relationship with them and how mature we can talk to them as smaller children about these things is something I think we miss an opportunity to do because, as y'all know, a 5-year-old can open an iPad, navigate to where they want to get,
Sure.
analyze some stuff, like some stuff, and, we sort of sometimes talk to them like they're children too long
Right.
and miss some time where we could be building their understanding of friendship.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, JG.
Oh no, I just had a question. Hey,
Okay.
look, hey, who has gotten to a fist fight and then spent the night over their house a week later or 2 weeks?
Me and Brian Walker.
Who hadn't done that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And
Plenty of
so,
time.
hey,
Well, we won't fist fight. We was boxing. We had on gloves, but
Yeah.
that was by virtue of my uncle instigating.
Yeah.
hold on. Did you have gloves or did you have socks inside of the sock?
No,
We had real gloves.
had real gloves.
We had real
couldn't
gloves.
afford gloves, cause we had
real
we
gloves.
These
put
were
3 or
6
4
ounces.
socks in front of a sock.
Yeah.
Hey, these were 6 ounce gloves.
Hey, look,
Nah.
and then that sock would slip over and that
14 ounce.
knuckle hit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask y'all where
14
got
ounce
them
gloves.
from, man.
I don't know where the gloves came from.
Oh no, well, really, where they came from was my grandfather.
Oh, okay.
Used to be in the boxing world.
Oh.
Going back and forth to the gym, and so why asked Ma?
June had hands.
Oh man,
He said that's why my grandfather's nickname was Frog.
yeah,
He
and
said they called him Frog because if somebody said something, he jumped right on it.
yeah.
So that's where he got the nickname from.
Can you go back to the time when nicknames was related to something that actually happened?
Yeah.
Frog.
No question. You
Yeah,
know what frog mean
My
now.
bad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, tell you something.
But look, I'm sorry, but
No, go ahead.
hold your thought.
Yeah, sure.
So in saying that though, has our kids gotten to a fight with somebody and then spent the night over somebody else's house? I can't recall if my son has ever been through that.
Because
Any of my kids,
we
that's-
probably did a better job of teaching our sons conflict resolution. I would
Yeah,
think.
my son probably only really been in like kind of like 1, 2
Yeah,
fights.
man, our kids
Yeah.
going to private schools and stuff like that.
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah, it's really not the same.
No.
Okay, well that's why
I'm
I'm
just
asking
saying
the
they
question.
grew up
Yeah,
different. I mean, they grew up totally different. And I didn't do the sleepover thing.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother episode.
Well, I was like, hey, Corey, this is what I think you're saying. We may have slept over there, but they didn't sleep over our house, or you ain't do it at all.
No, I'm saying I did.
Oh,
I'm
No, he
saying my
said his
children
kids
didn't.
ain't sleep
We didn't
nowhere
do
else.
it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah. So
So yeah, so I was just saying like the difference in our generation versus it's nothing right or wrong or better or worse than that. But now I'm looking back at it, you know, hey, you got into a fight with him. Now you want to spend the night over his house.
But
That wasn't not a big deal
I
at the
remember
time.
once when my brother was talking to his neighbor about. He's like, man, my son, man, he's looking for him to ramp up on the football field a little bit, man. You know, let that dog come out a little bit. Which now, you know, I'm saying it because now I'm happy to say the dog is fully out. But back then he was worried about it, right? He was in middle school, and his neighbor said, man, who played college football at Graham, he said, man, what he mad about? You out here living in, $500,000 house, like. What is he mad about? So my point is, where is his fight opportunities?
Right.
I mean, we could go outside and somebody was going to try you, over something,
Yeah.
or with some conflict. You took their bike, you rode their bike up the street, or they didn't bring the skateboard back, whatever.
Right,
They
exactly.
just didn't have them experiences. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know mine didn't.
Because
I wish
everybody,
they did, but
if everybody in the neighborhood got a bike, they got a Xbox. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now it ain't nothing to fight over, right? Unless it's the girl down the street.
That's just the
Right.
girl.
You know?
Or the game getting beat too many times.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
said, those fights
listen.
weren't really fights though. You know
but
what
they
I mean?
do
Right,
talk
right.
trash on those games, though.
Yeah, you're
Right.
fighting on
When
that.
they talk- when they talking on the
let's
game.
start again.
Yeah.
After you're on
Yeah.
floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
true, probably, because and when you online engage all that tough talk with the person not standing in front of you like it was when
Right.
we were young.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Then what that does is that starts a lot of fights in schools. And I remember that as a principal because they talking all of that stuff online. And because, behind social media, you real tough.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of
Yeah,
kids
it
are, wait till tomorrow.
Keyboard tough.
Yeah, wait
Yeah.
till tomorrow.
Cyber tough.
Somebody is all about tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? But
Cyber
that's-
bullying.
Man, I remember there was a time I was in fourth grade, and the guy I was hanging with at the time, and we all know him. I ain't gonna call his name, but we used to get in trouble like all the time. We didn't go on school field trips because we was still at the school field trip and all that kind of stuff. When they was going to D.C., they just left us at home. They like, you ain't going. You gonna be up there stealing at the White House. You know what I mean? So we didn't go. But I just remember one day my father was like, I don't know why you keep getting in trouble with this person. And then he said, no, I know exactly why you keep getting in trouble. I know exactly why. He said, and y'all keep getting in trouble together, but every time he go home, he don't get his you-know-what whip. You going to keep getting yours whipped. So eventually you going to understand. I remember him saying that when I was in fourth grade, and I remember I was about 19 years old, and I was driving down the street, and I looked, and I saw that friend in an orange jumpsuit as a trustee outside the courthouse cleaning up. And I was like, wow. And that was the first time when I saw him in the orange jumpsuit, that was the first time that memory of my father saying that to me came back to me. I didn't remember it at the time, but when I was driving down the street and I looked over, I saw my boy, and he was in an orange jumpsuit as a trustee outside, sweeping up outside the courthouse. And I was like, wow, okay, all right.
I don't know if it's, I know we talked that story. I don't know if it's the same person in different walks of life, but when I was in ninth grade, all through middle school, y'all know who I used to see me with at Four Seasons all the time, right? And my mother pleaded with me. As liberal as she was with us going everywhere and getting in a little trouble, she was like,
This
when your
person.
mother
Same
get adamant
thing
with
I said to my son
she-
about that one friend.
She pleaded with me. Stop hanging with him. I'm telling you, she said the same thing. Do you know I wasn't getting at that time, you're not getting hit anymore, but you getting punished. You know what I'm saying? Do you know he never get punished? She said that, but I don't know if it was her words and the combination of he just didn't play sports when we got to high school.
Yeah,
But the trajectory story is the same thing
yep,
as you pointing out.
absolutely.
When I look back, and later on, after some jail time on his part, and after we had been not even seeing him when he got out, and I hadn't even seen him for 15, 20 years, he was like, why did you stop hanging with me?
Oh, really? He asked you that?
I'm telling you, this was like,
Oh, wow.
Wow.
grown men, I hadn't even seen him.
Wow.
I was like, man, my mama told me to stop hanging with you.
You put on mom.
And mama knew. You know what I
Hey,
mean?
but my point is, to your point,
And
they
he
know,
understood.
and we need to have that level of being adamant with our children, because if they love you enough and they see you that serious, they know you mean it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
So it seems like you have an acquaintance, and then it can develop into a friendship. And when do you know it's time to move on from that friendship? I still got love for you. We still cool, but I can't do what you do.
I think
can't do what we do.
sometimes in life it's an obvious moment. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? My mama was like, all right, that's enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes you may go out and have a close encounter with that person. You're like, that's it, I'm done. You know what I mean? And sometimes when you develop different interests, I think when you talk about, playing high school sports and you playing baseball or whatever and football and I'm playing basketball, that kind of stuff, and now this person not with you after school in practice and all that stuff because they off doing whatever they doing. So now you develop the bonds that you develop with your teammates, you know what I mean? And so as a result, you find a new circle, you know what I mean? And so I think it organically happens when we find different interests,
right, yeah.
whether it be music for us, you know what I mean, or athletics, whatever it may be, you know what I mean? Could have been robotics. But once you've developed different interests, that's when the friendships will divide. That's why it's so important to make sure your kids are in these activities when they're young. You know what I mean? Whether it be athletics, teaching life lessons, or music, or whatever, piano, whatever it may be, you know what I mean? Because they're gonna all of a sudden surround themselves with other young people who have similar interests, similar goals, and that type of thing, you know? And so that's a good way of guiding them without telling them, you know what I mean?
And I think that was well said. Something recently took place, but before I go to what recently took place, I'm gonna tell a story in a second. I remember, like Wah said earlier, my mom always told me, Talik, you need to choose your friends. Don't let your friends choose you. I never, ever knew what the heck that meant until I became an adult. I'm so serious.
right.
Which brings me to this. Recently, in our hometown, we got something called a turkey bowl, right? And it happens on Thanksgiving. And by me not knowing how to choose my friends and letting my friends choose me, I'm around a whole bunch of guys in my neighborhood that, that I was, cool with, hanging with, running with at a certain point in my life. And when we was at the turkey bowl, this was my son's first time at 22 years old kind of meeting some of these guys. And my brother, when we got in the car, he said, did you know what your dad just did? He was like, what? He said, he just introduced you to 35 drug dealers and 5 murderers. And they all his friends. And I'm like, and then he like, really, Dad? And I'm like, yeah, I grew up with them guys or whatever.
And
you
we
know
love
what I'm
them.
saying? And we
And
love
we
them.
love them.
And some of them just getting
home.
home. Hadn't seen them.
A lot just getting on.
Yeah, a lot of them just getting home, and that was my growing up environment. But so much took place from when we were like really little kids, and then it was a perfect time, and our family moved us when we was like 12 years old out of that environment. And
We love the neighborhood.
and
but
we love the
we
neighborhood.
just got moved to the country.
Right. We moved to the country. And by the grace of God, man, that was everything to us. And from that time, from 12 years old to the age of 18, some of them, that's when them guys that I grew up with got into the real trouble
It go from
and disappeared.
I always like to say it go from throwing rocks to selling rocks.
Oh,
That's what it
yeah.
did. That's what it go from.
Especially
Yeah.
that time period.
Serious.
Yeah, especially in the 80s. It went
that
from
was
throwing rocks to selling rocks. And that's when it was like, it's not smack on the hand trouble now. It's 15, 20 years, 30 years in prison time now. You know what I mean? Right. And that's what happened. And only through the grace of God, that, were we able to move out to the country, and now I'm out there. I thought we had moved to the edge of the earth. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
We wasn't about like 15 minutes
I
out the
was gonna say
city.
something about that. Y'all
and I
on
was-
Prophet Road,
Yeah, we
And
was,
I-
we
and I
was
was-
15 minutes.
3 miles outside
Yeah.
the city limits.
Man, I thought that was the edge of the earth.
And I was trying to find trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And that's what happened.
Hey, let me jump in and just remind everyone, B2M Podcast is live today from the Code Building. Shout out to the Code in this wonderful facility in downtown Charlottesville. We also got B2M merch available on our website. We're going to be plugging that. Y'all can follow us on IG at B2M Crew, on Twitter at B2M Crew. So, we coming on all the social media outlets. And can we wrap this up by giving some tips? So we've talked a lot about friendship stuff, but what is our advice? Because we got about 10, 15 minutes left, I think. What is our advice? And we could just jump in to parents. What do we want them to focus on with their children that's critical in this decision-making stuff for their kids?
I think at the end of the day, what I hear every man here talking about is, at the core of it, is our morale, our morals, moral compass, our value system. Your character is who you are in a person, right? And so, hey, chill, who you say? Hey, whoever got your ear got your destiny, right?
Yes.
And so you want to surround yourself with like-minded folks going to help you grow. Because life is hard, but choose your hard, right?
Right.
And so if I'm dealing with someone, and you young, you do dumb stuff, you make silly decisions, you do something wild. But sometimes at some point you'll be like, yo, I got love for you, but I can't continue to go this route because, like you say, this is where I'm going to end up. You know what I mean? And that's not the hard life. Life, we want to make life easier for our boys, right? Not harder. And so a lot of times they don't get it, you know what I mean? And so hopefully they survive the nonsense or the BS that they had to go through. Hopefully they listen to you immediately, but sometimes they got to touch that fire to see if it's hot. You feel me?
Right.
So it's just like, hey, understanding we want to be around, even though we fall, we be like, hey, nah, this is the way we should be going. When I slide, you going to call me out. You know what I mean? Like vice versa. I'm going to call you, yo, that wasn't right. And so that's what we want our kids to be surrounded with people that's going to call them out, that's going to show them love, lift them up when they fall.
Sure.
You feel me? And have their back in life. And that's what we want. We want to make life easier, a more happier, productive life at the end of the day. That's how I feel.
So what's that tip in the summary?
Ooh-wee. Hey, look, I was about to say prayer, but
Yeah.
Just pray.
prayer. Hey, man, I got another story behind it, though.
Okay.
We relocated 12, 13 years ago, and at the time, me and my children's mom, my ex-wife, had moved before me, and so I was kind of going back and forth. And I had told my kids, I said, listen, you don't know nobody up there, right? This is a fresh start. Stay out of X, Y, and Z. There's a few things I heard about gangs. I don't know if it was a real gang or just,
Neighborhood kids.
Yeah. 4 kids wearing the white T-shirt is a gang, right?
Right.
I don't know. So I'm saying hang out with good folks, boom, 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 boom. So I'm back and forth as I didn't move up there initially. I get a phone call. Dre and oops, I named my son.
Oh, you ain't supposed to name your son?
Oh,
Dre.
yeah, it's all good.
Dre
You know
good.
about it. Yeah, he good. So him and a buddy, somebody wrote something on the wall and somebody wrote something on top of the wall, right? And I'm like, this is exactly what I told you not to deal with. This is exactly, you know what I mean? And so I'm on the way. I'm on the road about to get him. I get the phone call. I call my cousin in D.C. I said, hey, I'm going to drop him off. I'm going to drop him off in Berry Farms. You tell me what street to be on, you keep an eye on him, right?
Yeah.
You want to be a tough guy.
Yeah.
This is what, you know what I mean? I'm going
Yeah.
to take you to where kids really struggling, And by the time I got there, he got in the car. And the tough guy, he was, he was sad. He was mad at himself. He showed a ton of remorse. So that wasn't necessary.
Sure.
Right? All of that wasn't necessary. So fast forward, I said, I don't want you hanging with this guy no more. Why? Because you just moved up here. I don't know his people. Like
Yeah,
your mama
there
say,
you
I
go.
don't know none of his folks.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
He may be good. I don't know. But you just got here, and this is what y'all did together, right?
Right.
Okay, so again, I'm not living there full time. I'm still back and forth before I move up full time. By the time I move up there full time, they ace boom coon partners. You know what I mean? Hanging out still. Didn't matter what I say, right? So now I'm keeping an eye on him. He coming over, blah blah blah. So fast forward, I get a phone call. This young man had committed suicide.
What?
Yeah.
I
Yep.
remember.
And so we was like, what? What happened? What happened?
That's sad.
And so, our instant thing was to be like, okay, what's up with our son? Are you good? Are you okay? What are you thinking? What's going on? Did you know anything about this?
How old was he when he committed suicide?
This was
16?
I want to say it's 10th or 11th grade.
Yeah.
I think
Man.
something like that.
I remember when it took place because we was all talking and discuss, in the morning talks.
Yeah.
But just
Is he finished?
Oh no, I mean, it's a sad story, and at the end of the day, we can still give our kids the best advice, right? Because I'm sure some parents have said, "Don't hang with him, don't hang with you, don't hang with that." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that was probably right at the time, right? And so that was what I was saying, and it ended. So I was really, I never knew this would happen, right? I never knew it would end like that, because at the end of the day, we want to save our kids from heartache, sadness, unnecessary stress and drama. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and I think they still was excellent friends, for that time period in their life, for that short time. But it ended very tragically, you know? And again, did I knew that was going to happen? Did he know it was going to happen? So that's just an example. Again, we got friends that got locked up. You know what I mean? That was an example of something that my son went through as well. So, but yeah, it's
JG, what you tell Dre y'all was gonna do with his ashes if he committed suicide?
So look, this is before a whole lot of mental health talk.
Get the
right?
get the beep ready, please.
Get the beat ready.
And this is before we talk mental health is important, right? But we wasn't talking about it at the time. But we call our kid gloves, me and his mom, like, you okay? You okay? How you feeling? Did you know? And so this young man, and in action that time, it was a rash. That was like 2 or 3 of those same things that happened, right?
Yeah.
Unrelated, but in the area, we was like that. So one of the fellas, and we talked, had put a request. I want to be buried with this. I want this. I want this. I want this.
Before he killed himself.
Yeah. Before that, and so after about a month or so, me and his mom trying to love him to death, you know what I mean, and coddle him and make sure he okay.
Right.
I'm saying the money, it might have been 2 weeks for real.
One day.
But and that's take forever. You still may be dealing with it. But we was like, look, man, at the end of the day, if you make this decision, he made his decision, you have to make your decision. And if you had him request, we're not going to honor that request because that's not an honorable way to die. You didn't save a mother and a child from a burning building. That was a decision. It's sad. It's horrific. But you don't get those requests. We'll cremate you and sprinkle your ashes along the highway. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's not a way to go, man. And so that was rash. That was harsh.
I'm never a proponent of truth.
Yeah.
That's just keeping it a stack with
Yeah.
them.
And because during that time, it was so many, the kids who took their lives was getting so much attention afterwards.
Yeah.
Right.
Like honor.
And
That's
that,
all
all
that
the
he-
opponent of truth. I'm saying,
yeah, you know what I mean? And so
we gotta
John
talk real
was
talk.
like, nah, man, we ain't gonna go like that for you
Yeah.
if you decide to do that.
Yeah.
And therein lies sometimes when you try to, not to switch topics, have a better life and live in a better area, kids have different struggles than what we had.
Sure.
Yeah,
We
it's
can't imagine that.
hey, like a
You know?
whole bunch of
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
At the end of the day, though, I think he chooses his friends well. He has, I know a lot of his friends that he's known for a long time. I'm friendly with them. They're a good time. They're grown men now. You know what I mean? So we drink a beer together, whatever. You know what I mean? So I think he has a very good discernment as far as choosing who they deal with and move on from.
I think
I'll go.
my final. Go ahead, Talik.
I was gonna I hadn't got a chance to chime in on my son, talking about friends and stuff like that. And shout out to our producer, my son. But however, I used to have conversations with him. I was like, man, you a terrible friend. Like that, right? And he used to be so mad with me. Dad, why you say that? I was like, man, look, man, I don't know if it was coming because he's on the child, and some of his selfish ways will show up. Well, what I would think was selfish, it would show up big, and it was kind of it was eye opening to me. And I'm like, son, look, these are the characteristics of being a friend. I'm just running, I mean, I probably didn't hit all of them, but I was just running stuff down to them, and I'm like, and then I'm telling them, you need to be. It need to be a level of concern. Did you ask him this? Did you ask him? You don't know nothing about this person. Like when is his graduation, or whatever. Or when's his birthday, or like these type. Dad, I ain't asked that. And I'm like, of course this don't make him a bad friend, but I'm just kind of pointing some things out. And I remember when he was one of the young boys that lived across the street, same type of situation or similar situation that Jay Moo was saying was that it was this young lady that both of them liked. And I asked my son, I said, well, who approached her first? And he was like, his friend across the street. And I said, he said, but I liked her first. I said, well, who knows who liked her first, right? You know what I mean? I said, man, if that's your friend, right, and if you're going to be a true friend, you know what I'm saying, you let him do his thing, right? Another beautiful lady will come along, but that's off limits. Dad, why you think that's off limits? You know what I mean? I'm like, it's off. I was like, man, these some of the values of being a friend. That, hey, you know what? Hey, hey, you go ahead. You approached her first. You already in her ear. I'm gonna take a step back.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I had to start teaching them how to become a good friend, and because he'll get mad. His friend move something off his dress, he'll put him out the room, man. He'll get rid of him quick, right? I'm like, yeah, this ain't how it works. Dad, I don't like nobody touching my stuff. And so I had to, kind of walk him through, man, like, it's okay, man,
I like that because your tip is to talk them through friendship choices.
Okay. Yeah.
In the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But to do that, you got to be an engaged parent.
Absolutely.
That's where you're going to get
That's
that,
where
Joaquin.
I'm going.
Go ahead.
That's exactly where I'm going.
Go ahead.
I always say, if you want to know what's going on with you don't have all these drastic issues with your kids when you there with them every step of the way.
Yeah.
When you got your hand on them and you know what's going on. You know what's going on in practice. You know what's going on in schools. I can know what's going on with my son because one of his teammates will tell me. Why? Because I'm his coach.
Yeah.
Wow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can know what's going on with my son. He might not even told me about anything. But then the kids might start talking about it in practice. And now when we get home, I can say, hey, what happened at school today? What happened, with so-and-so? You know what I mean?
Crew Podcast, Brothers to Men, over 40 years, 100 years of marriage. We talking about brotherhood, fatherhood, marriage, life, culture, faith. Coming to you live today from the Code in Charlottesville, Virginia. We got the merch on the table. Follow us on Twitter, on Instagram at B2M. And check us out. Today we gave y'all some tips on parenting. We want your comments on the YouTube video. We need your feedback. We want you to help keep this movement going. So once again, thank you all. Shout out to Win Productions for the producing and our producer Tyreek. iHeartMedia's finest. And let's wrap it up, Joaquin. You got something to take us out with?
Yeah, the great quote of our great American leader, Frederick Douglass. It is easier to raise strong children than to repair broken men. Thank you.
And we out.
I'ma show them how true and independent get it. Whole game changed by the time I'm finished with it. We about to get this business handled in a minute. And I won't stop until I'm winning. I'ma show them how true and independent get it. Whole game changed by the time I'm finished with it. We about to get this business handled in a minute. And I won't stop until I'm winning. They don't want me in the office cause I tell the truth. Probably want me lying, giving poison to the youth. Black power.